And I see that people are starting to filter in following today's breakout sessions. We're about to get started with the closing session of today's events. We have Standing Strong Together by Admiral Zlatoper. This is the final session for today, and then we are going to close at noon today, and we're going to restart tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I look forward to seeing you all then. So we're about to start our closing plenary session today with Admiral Zlatoper, who is a retired United States Navy 4-star admiral who served as Commander-in-Chief, United States Pacific Fleet from 1994 to 1996, the world's largest naval command encompassing half of the Earth's surface and including more than 190 ships, 1,600 aircraft, and 200,000 personnel. He is a combat-experienced naval aviator with over 4,000 flying hours and 1,000 aircraft carrier landings, having also served as the Chief of Naval Personnel, Battle Group Commander in Desert Storm and Desert Shield, and Program Coordinator for the F-18 jet aircraft on the Navy staff in Washington. After his distinguished military career, Admiral Zlatoper served as co-chairman of the board and chief executive officer of Sanchez Computer Associates Incorporated, leading the growth of that company from a $50 million market capitalization organization to a $1 billion corporation. In October of 2017, he completed his duties as the 24th trustee of the estate of James Campbell, a private trust with real estate assets valued in excess of $2.5 billion. He is a founding member of the Homeless Veterans Task Force, and it is our honor to have him here today. Admiral Zlatoper, please take it away.
Thanks very much, Adam. Very, very nice introduction. I wish my mother were still alive. She would appreciate it, probably believe most of that stuff. But, thank you for allowing me to address everybody today. I attended two of the sessions, and I have to say they were both. I'm a mathematics major, so the digital guys got me. But both of those sessions were really well done. And what's ZAP doing here right now? Well, Mark Alexander asked me to speak this morning to close this event. And so if it's a dud, it's his fault. If it works out well, then I'll take some credit for it. But I said, you know, Mark, what do you want me to talk about? He said, 20 minutes. So one topic on 20 minutes, I guarantee you I would bore you. So I'd like to break that up. If perhaps 4 or 5 short vignettes, let me try it. And hopefully 1 or 2 will resonate with everybody here for one reason or another. Now, I will tell you up front, I have ADD. When I was a kid, if I were a child right now, you'd probably put me on Ritalin. But when I was a kid, what they did was they just skipped me 2 grades and pushed me on. And so I ended up being challenged by the fact there was more to handle than I could. And the reason I mention that, because I will drift off topic, but I guarantee you I will always come back. So let me start with something. I hope this morning to maybe inform and entertain and perhaps even motivate you to be even more committed to the Homeless Veterans Program. You know, I have to say on the education side, let me start with a thought. This is something you can walk away with. On this day in 1776, the Second Continental Congress made the United States the official title of this country, replacing the United Colonies. All right, so we march forward with that. You can stop. I've got some other information along those lines, so you walk away more educated in one way or another. But I want to offer some lighthearted thoughts that tie up to this also. And so I'll start off, I want to share a story about 3 veterans who I got to know in a very interesting way in 1996. My daughter was graduating from the University of Virginia. At the time, I was out here as a Pacific Fleet commander. So I had, as Adam said, quite a bit of important things and people to take care of. But I said, I'm going back. I'd been paying for 4 years of college in Virginia. I'm going back. And so I said, Ashley, my daughter, I said, I'm going to come back for this, but we're going to do everything here. We're going to go to all the meetings and the presentations and all of that type of thing. And so she said, great. So I showed up in Charlottesville, Virginia. And on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we went to the commissioning ceremony for the Navy ROTC program. There were 31 young men and women joining the Navy and the Marine Corps. They took their oath of office Ashley, my daughter, and I are sitting in the back of the audience because we don't have any family members directly involved in this, but I wanted to watch it. And after that, Ashley turned to me, she said, Dad, I've got to go back and change into my dress for the convocation. I said, great. So I don't know, those of you that are familiar with the University of Virginia, beautiful campus, we walk past fraternity row and we make a right and we go down sorority row and then we walk into the, I think it was Pi Beta Phi, or whatever the name of her sorority was. We walk into the sorority house, she goes upstairs to change, and I make a right into the sitting room. And seated on the sofa in the living room there are 3 new United States ensigns. A single bar on their shoulder. They had been officers in the United States Navy for about 30 minutes. They took their oath of office, and I walk around the corner, and I have my uniform on. So these guys have been officers in the Navy for about 30 minutes, and the first active duty guy they meet is a 4-star admiral. They look incredibly at each other, and then jump to attention, and they sort of stand there rigidly. And, and I'm a happy guy. My daughter's graduating from college. I thought I was getting away from school payment. That's until she decided to go to medical school. But it's a great day. So I walk up, and these guys are vibrating. I said, I'm going to have a conversation with them. They're standing at attention. Walk up to the first guy, beaded sweat around his neck. And I said, Ensign, congratulations on your commissioning. I watched it this morning. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. He's not going to talk to me. I go to the second guy, same thing. He is not, and I don't blame him, not happy. He doesn't want to talk to an admiral. He just wants his girlfriend in the sorority to come down so he can get out of here. And he's not going to talk. I go to the third guy, and he is a little calmer. And I determined I'm going to have a conversation with this guy. So I said, Ensign, I saw your commissioning this morning. Thank you, sir. I said, it was very impressive. Yes, sir. I said, you're joining the greatest Navy in the world. Yes, sir. I said, in your Navy RTC program, did you do any studying on naval history? Said, yes, sir. And I said, well, in your estimation, who are the 3 greatest naval leaders that we have had? He said, well, sir, I didn't catch your name when you came in, but the other 2 guys were John Paul Jones and Nimitz. That guy won his way into my heart. Okay. And, oh, by the way, those 3 ensigns did wonderful work, and they became veterans. And what's interesting about that is about 5 years later, I got an email from one of those 3, actually the second, that said, Admiral, I've done my time in the Navy, I'm getting out, and I don't have a job, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I said, okay, well, wait a minute. So I referred him to some friends on the West Coast where he wanted to stay out there, and they took care of him. But he was a veteran that could have become a homeless veteran, young and all that, but he had lost all his connection. He had spent his time in Japan. He was coming back to the United States. He didn't know how to connect. And it was interesting. It didn't register with me at the time because I wasn't living out here watching our homeless veterans situation develop. But remember now that less than 10% of our population are veterans. Okay, that's 20 million nominally, give or some. And oh, by the way, the average age for those veterans is 58 years old. And the largest share of our veterans are from the Gulf War era. That's actually after this ensign finished his time as lieutenant and came back. So let me offer you one more thought. Should we care about these vets? We have to, because who will do it? The Congress? Hopefully they will. But here's an interesting fact for me. In 1953, as I was getting ready to finish grade school, 70% of our congressmen and our senators were veterans. Okay? Today, less than 20% of them are. Less than 20% of our legislative national leaders in the federal government have spent time in a uniform. Those numbers tell me that we here today in this group have to make sure that this important segment of our population, veterans who have taken up the cloth of the country, make sure that they are not overlooked. Veterans come from a good place. They joined to serve their country, to take care of us. They offered if need be, their lives in the service of the country and us. They leave their homes, they put on the uniform, they go overseas, they do their service, and then some of them come back and have problems. Because, why? They lose their connections with home, they lose their connections with family, they might end up in a different geographic area where they have no network with which they have problems perhaps readjusting. So why should we care? Well, because if we don't take care of them, who will? So I said I have ADD. I'm going to jump off topic for just a second because I want to bring you back eventually to that last comment. I spent 12 years in Washington, D.C. on 5 different tours while I was in uniform. What's interesting is during those 12 years, there were 7 different management systems in the Pentagon under order. There was the 5-year defense program, which became the future year defense program, and then the next time I came back, we were into zero-based budgeting. And then when I came back, it was total quality management. And then it was Deming's 14 points of quality management, which I always thought was very interesting. Let's see, if we got 10 commandments to run the world, we have to have 14 data points to manage systems. I don't know. But I took a look at all those, and what did they have in common? They had 4 things in common. Number one, a lot of people made money advancing those systems, but there are 4 things to any management system. Number one, you've got to have a goal. Number 2, you have to make a plan. Number 3, you've got to work hard. And number 4, not least, but perhaps most important, you have to take care of your people. Okay, we who are involved in the Homeless Veterans Program can use those 4 principles and help our vets. And who should do that? Well, it drives me now to one of the best ancient publications that I know, the Bible. Okay, I refer you to Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. It said, then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, here I am, Lord, send me. Okay, that's us. We need to step up. So I'd like to share a personal story beyond the one about my daughter and her friends graduating that really got me involved in the Homeless Veterans Program. My wife and I were here and training for triathlons. When we first came back out here in 2000. And we had a group of 25 of us, and we would 3 days a week, we'd swim, we'd run, we'd bike, and we'd train with a guy who would drive us mercilessly. But we got good enough, and we became pretty decent at competing in the local triathlons, the 10-man, the various things that took place. What's interesting about that, during that period, when you spend that time with folks, you tend to gravitate to folks you met. And one of them was a guy I respect his privacy, so I won't use his name because you might run into him. I might define him in a way that you'll know him anyway, but I'll call him John Smith, okay? John and I became buddies because we enjoyed the workouts, and he liked airplanes, and I loved airplanes. I spent a long time of my life flying them. And he was from the Midwest, as was I, and he liked college football, as did I, and so we sort of bonded. And we got to know each other. And here's a surprising thing that I got to know about him. He's a Notre Dame graduate in engineering. So he's got a great background. He spends a short period of time in the military, and he's now a veteran. And then got a job, got married, and in the process, lost his job, had an ugly divorce, and then lived 6 months in an automobile as a homeless guy out here, okay? The interesting thing is he got some help, and I don't know who the friends on island were. He found a job, he reestablished himself, and here he was working out with us in triathlons and talking. But it really struck me. Here was a guy that had everything going for him from background, and now all of a sudden he had nothing going for him. A homeless vet living in a car, and somebody helped him get started again. So we can do that. Then lo and behold, John Henry Felix approaches me and he says, Zap, I'd like you to join, this is some 5 years ago, join the Mayor's Homeless Veterans Task Force. And so I said, okay, I drew back on that experience. I said, great, I'd like to do that. And, you know, he said, the task force is here. We're going to try to identify who the homeless are, and we get them homeless, get them sheltered, and then get them jobs and make them productive members of society again. How can you say no to somebody like that? So okay. We went to the first meeting. It was November, some 5 years ago, I believe. And an impressive, at the Pacific Club, impressive array of attendees. I mean, there were like 25 of us at the table. The Veterans Affairs had representation, Tripler Armory Medical Center. There was a minister, there's people from the governor's office, from the mayor's office, judges, developers, healthcare providers, prison reform advocates, an executive from the Hawaii Automobile Association who's still with us, Catholic Charities, United Way, you go on, you name it, they were there at the table. And we went around the table. It took us like 40 minutes to introduce ourselves to everybody and say a line or two. And then somebody asked the question, how many homeless vets are there in Hawaii? And by my rough nominal estimation, we had probably 20 different estimates of numbers from different agencies because everybody had their own way of collecting their data and analyzing it, if you will. And so at that time, then I said, it was November, and we had Kitty Lagaretta. I don't know if you all know her or not, but she ran a public relations firm at the time. She had come as a volunteer. She was going to get us some publicity for it. They put out a press release of who the members were. And I said, you know, Kitty and I are going to probably between now and January 1st go to maybe a dozen cocktail parties. And people are going to say, hey, Kitty, you're on the Homeless Veterans Committee. Admiral Zap, you're on the Homeless Veterans Committee. How many homeless vets do we have in Hawaii? And I said, I'm not sure what the real number is, but I know that for credibility, we better have the same numbers. So we spent the first meeting just talking amongst the group to come up with what we thought was a nominal and a fair, rough number of homeless veterans. I'm happy to say over the last 5 years, this has been refined magnificently to the fact that the plenary session that I sat in on, I had great confidence in the numbers and the data that got presented there. And so we now have moved to a data-driven system that has pretty good indications of how we go and where we go. So I mentioned earlier the four-step management philosophy. We put that to good use with the Homeless Veterans Committee. You know, our goal is to reduce the number and control the number of homeless vets and return those vets to productive citizenry positions. Secondly, we plan by using our committees and its members to take actions that are necessary. And everyone's been working hard for the last 5 years. And every meeting that we have on a monthly basis, we've actually slipped a little to virtual meetings here in the last 6, but nonetheless, I'm always impressed with the effort put forward by everybody working. And finally, taking care of our people, we have seen results. Depending on where you start the measure, we're down 25% in the number. And of course, you all realize that it's never going to be zero because there's always inflow and outflow. But as long as we're driving that number in the right direction, I think we're going to accomplish great things. We're making good progress. So in the 2015 nominal estimate of around, 450, 500, something like that, we can now say we've improved to maybe nominally around 350. And more importantly, the trend is in the right direction. So right now, drawing from 1980, I have to tell you one of my favorite movies of all times, and it shows you how old I am, and I would venture to say probably 3/4 of you have no idea unless you have watched it on Netflix. But one of my favorite movies was The Blues Brothers with John Belushi. I don't know if you recall that, but in his great phrase, quote, "What are you?" And they stole a police car. They put on a concert to raise money. And he said, quote, "We are on a mission from God." Well, we're not saving, our group is not saving a small Catholic convent in Chicago the way that John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd were back then. But I'm telling you that we can help hundreds of men and women who have put their lives on the line for us in uniform and worn the uniform of our country, and now find themselves needing the same help that someone gave my Notre Dame grad friend, John Smith, remember him, some 30 years ago. And we can do it with your help. So hire a vet, make a phone call, spend an extra 5 minutes doing something to help the Homeless Veterans Committee. I don't care what it is, but get involved, stay involved, bring people in, analyze the data, and I think we can make great strides in going to bed at night and feeling like we have served the nation well in serving those who have gone before and now have some problems. I look forward to tomorrow's events. I think today's were astonishingly good, and over to you, Adam.
Thank you so much, Admiral, for those stirring words. Really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. Now, we've come to the end of our agenda for today. I wanted to thank everyone for participating in this. I know it's a very unusual time, so we're all getting used to unusual ways of getting together. But this is so important that we get together to talk about, especially this issue. So I want to thank everyone who participated. We've had over 100 participants, which is fantastic. And here's hoping that we have more tomorrow. We're going to be getting started at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'd like to remind everyone to go to the website to check out the agenda, check out who's going to be speaking, decide which breakout sessions you'd like to participate in. I'd like to once again thank you all for being here. I want to give a special thanks to the Mayor's Challenge team, all the speakers and facilitators who have graciously given their time, their knowledge, their expertise, their experience, and services voluntarily for our very first Homeless Veterans virtual conference. We hope that you all enjoyed the opportunity to learn these new techniques and gain new skills to help in your efforts to help those most vulnerable in your communities.